everyone. In this video we will look at what are sets in Python. So we will discuss what sets are, how do we create a particular set, how do we change the elements, what would be the regular operations that we can perform in the sets, the methods that are available to us, both the regular methods as well as the built-in functions. So now coming to the first basic question of what are sets. Sets are nothing but the unordered pair of elements that we can give. Sets are very similar to what we see in a dictionary. The only difference between a set and a dictionary is that dictionary are a pair of key value in set of curly braces, but whereas sets are single elements. And the other basic difference is that sets are unique in nature. That is, in a particular set, you cannot have multiple elements that can be repeated. So let's jump into Jupyter Notebook and see how we can create a particular set. So let's say I give this variable as the name my set, and just like I mentioned previously, sets are very similar to that of dictionary. So when you declare a set, we are going to start off with the curly braces. And let's create the set with the elements A, B, and C. So this is a set having 3 elements. Now, we can also have a set with multiple data types. So I can also say my set is equal to, and let's give this particular set having multiple data types. So let's start off with 6.5, the name James. Next, let's keep a tuple having 3 elements. That is, let's say the tuple has the elements A, D, and the number 10. Okay, if we run this, Python will accept it. So we can have mixed data types in a particular set. Now, like I said previously, sets can only contain unique values. So let's say if I want to create a new set, and let's give the same name my set, and this time I just say set of, and I give a list, and inside the list, let's say I'm repeating this number 1 3 times, and I write the number 2. Okay, so if we run this thing now, like I mentioned, that we must have unique values because sets can only contain unique values. If you take a look at my set and if I print it, you would see that the element 1, which we had written here 3 times, has been only mentioned once. So the basic rule that a set can have only unique values is maintained. Okay, and this one other condition. Now let's say I create one other set, and this time I give the variables like a, b, and for the third element I'll pass in a list of 1, 2. Okay, we saw tuples was permitted, so let's try out list. Now once we run list, we get an error. Okay, the reason Python throws an error is the fact that the sets cannot have mutable elements inside it. We know that a list, whenever we declare a list, we can change the elements of a list. They are mutable in nature, whereas tuple is immutable in nature. So a set can only contain immutable objects type. So we cannot have something of a mutable nature inside the set as its element. So we cannot pass here a list, and Python will, even if we try to pass in a list like we saw just now, Python is not going to accept it. Now, let's say we now give a very simple set, that is we are giving the values 1, 3, 5 and 7. Okay, now if you see that even though we have passed in a list, and since we are declaring this to be a set, if you just check the type of this, we'll still get it as a set. Okay, now let's focus our attention on changing the elements of a set. Okay, now since sets are unordered elements, so that is one uh, basic idea that is very similar to that of dictionaries, that sets are unordered elements. So we cannot expect sets to have some index number. Okay, so indexing will not work on sets. So if I say my set of 0, we are bound to get an error. Okay, because sets like dictionaries cannot have indexes. So it will not support the indexing method. Now, now let's try and understand how we can add elements to our sets. The easiest way to add a particular element to a set is using the add method. So we'll simply say add, and let's say we want to add the number 2 to this particular set. So I've simply written down 2, and now if we check the my set, we'll see this element 2 has been added to this particular set. Okay, now what happens if we want to add multiple elements at the same time? So for that we have a command called update. So in this method we can just pass in a list of those elements with which we wanted to update this particular set. So let's say we given numbers like 8, 9, 10, 11. So we just want to add these 4 elements to this particular set. Now in update I have passed in as a list, and once we run this elements will be added to this particular my set. Okay, now let's try adding multiple data types in the update method. Okay, so I'll say my set dot update, and inside this let's pass in a list, and let's write 1 comma 1 comma 19. Okay, we know that even if you pass the same value multiple times, set will only consider it once, and since we already have one, this particular element will be ignored. Okay, and now for the second element, let's take in a dictionary, or let's take another set. Okay, and this set will, let's say, have the number 22, 25 and 28. Okay, so like I mentioned, one is already present inside our set, so it will not add another one because all the elements need to be unique. So once we run this view, we are expecting this to remain the same, and after 11 we would have the elements 19, 22, 25 and 28. So let's run this and check. So we were able to successfully update our set with that particular different types of elements. Like we have passed in a list and another set and it was able to successfully update the current set. Now